Listen, making content is tough, so I go about it in one of three ways. One, just be myself, but that typically involves some weird end result in me getting lectured by another adult, which is awkward to say the least. Two, I check out a Kabuki ad to see all the cool ways you could, but probably will never use things. Or three, try everything our Instagram followers suggest when we ask what they want to see in our reviews, and we tried it all. Squat, bench, yoke walks, deadlift, lunges, farmer carries, overhead press. Seriously, we tried everything, even when things started getting a little weird. Obviously, reps open trap bar isn't the only option. Just ignore this bar I took apart. I tend to go overboard when testing things and don't clean up well. Ask Winnie. Anyway, there's a ton of trap bars out there, and while I haven't tried them all, I have tried a lot of them. So while I can't go saying this is the best bar for most people, I can say it's a pretty good bar, though personally I would have changed a few things on it. Luckily, a lot of the issues I have can, and it looks like will be addressed by Rep soon, and it won't matter if you're already own this because you'll be able to change out these easily swappable handle frames, which is where some of those issues come in. We'll cover those specific issues as we break Rep's bar down throughout the various lifts you asked me to try it on, but if you're looking for something you can build more to your wants and needs, and this isn't exactly what you're looking for right now, it sounds like it won't be an issue for long, making what's already a pretty well done and versatile bar an even more interesting option for your gym. If you're interested in this bar or any of the others we compare in this video, I've put some links in the description. Weighing in at 16 pounds with 16.5-inch loadable sleeve length hard chrome sleeves so they won't look like, well, that after 2 uses, and with a well done matte black textured powder coat on the round tube frame, which is a feature that helps with its versatility, this is a bar that won't leave you wanting in the looks department. And with a 5-year warranty and Rep sending it to me for a review, it's clearly something they believe in and stand behind. The versatility of it is where I think this thing really shines, even if I'll be the first to admit I'll probably never do much with it besides deadlift. I say that and I mean it, but I found it actually does a lot of stuff really well. It's just in my situation, I've got a lot of space, and to be honest, I've become quite spoiled here after selling my soul and free time to YouTube. So I'm not necessarily looking for one piece of equipment that does a lot, but if you are, I don't think you'll be disappointed here. But let's start with the lift most of us think of with a bar like this. It works very well for deadlift, which is important since that is what you're most likely to do with it, besides think of ways to use it so your wife doesn't question your 35th purchase this year, or figure out how to store it since these things take up a lot of space unless you want to spend $1,700 on Rogue's lean-to bar rack. But deadlift is also where most of my issues with this bar come up. It's very well balanced both horizontally and vertically, which we'll get to why vertical may matter to you in a minute, but you want a balanced bar so that as you're loading it up with weight, it's not tilting and pulling you in either direction. The 28mm handles help with the grip versus using a thicker bar like Rogue's at 34mm or Titan's at, well, I'm not really sure anymore because this is version 2 and it's definitely 32mm, but they now have a version 3, but they can't decide on their own website what the specs are on it. So maybe 28, maybe not. Either way, the powder-coated knurling on those bars, specifically Titan's, doesn't come close to the knurling on these fully knurled stainless steel handles. I should note, I appreciate the center knurling marks and wish they were a standardized feature on this type of bar, as it helps you line up your grip, which a lot of the people I lift with have an issue with on our other trap bars. Okay, it's probably been long enough since we've seen the cat tongue knurling system, and since at least 3 people have asked for it in the comments over the past 6 months, here goes. If you're not familiar with the system, the rules are simple. I searched the internet for probably way more time than is healthy, finding really weird pictures of cats' faces, and sync them to a number rating for the intensity of a barbell's knurl, and nobody points out how weird it is. A 0 is our base rating for a passive but well done knurl like on an Ohio bar. And yes, we have given negative ratings in the past like on that Yahitech disaster of a barbell. Anyway, a 2 is a more aggressive knurl like on an Ohio power bar, kind of the golden standard for aggressive knurling, and I'd put this bar somewhere in between. It's good and cleanly done, but I'd prefer a more aggressive knurling and really hope that's an option in the future since the handles are easy to swap out. So to make an overly long story short, it's probably a 1 or maybe a little higher if you want to give any credit to that smaller diameter helping with the grip. But honestly, I've rubbed my hands all over so many shafts, they're starting to all feel the same. Since we're on the topic of changing out the handles, this is probably a good time to talk about the bar's width. I think a good amount of people are going to find the grips a bit wide since there's about 27 inches of space between them. It's still usable, and I wouldn't call it a fatal flaw, but if you're used to it being a little tighter in there, it's noticeable. Rather than just list off numbers, I think it's logical to think of the spacing between the handles as around 23 inches being narrow, which is like Titan's bar here, which is actually 22 inches, 25 inches as being standard, which is where Rogue's TB2 is, or the giant Northland trap bar here, or wide as 27 inches, which is where Rep's bar sits. Your preference in width will come down to your build, and admittedly, you probably have no idea what you want or like without actually trying one of these out. Luckily though, Rep is currently designing other handles and at least have rotating, wide, and narrow in development. So if you think this may be too wide for you or don't like something else about them, there's a good chance you'll be able to build it to fit you soon enough. That to me is a huge selling point in this bar, and to be honest, I don't think I'll ever go back to an older design like Titan's for that very reason. Last note on the handles before we move on to other lifts, this top handle with its current handle frame, not sure if they'll offer other options, but the handle sits at 11.5 inches from the floor when loaded up. So to put that into perspective, a traditional deadlift is almost 9 inches, Titan's bar sits at almost 15 inches with their highest handle, and Rogue's is even higher than that, giving this bar one of the lowest high handles on the market. Whether that matters to you or not, I'm not sure, but it is one of those times where a few inches makes a big difference in feeling. The strength of this bar is really in its versatility, and as I've already said, although I won't really use it for all the things it can do, I still have to admit it really does a lot well. I actually really enjoyed using this bar for bench, which is where the importance of it being balanced vertically comes in, though the round tubing at 2 inches thick is a little thicker than I'm used to. You will have to remove the handles to be able to press with it because with them on, it's not really the enjoyable type of rubbing, but luckily they are easily removable with one Allen screw. But I'm sure I'll rarely do it because anything that takes me much time to set up during a workout just doesn't happen. So quickly removable, sure, it takes probably 30 seconds if you have a wrench on hand versus something like Kabuki's with 4 bolts, but I'm not sure how practical this thumb screw really is. I tend to really tighten mine down because I don't want it ever coming loose on me or me forgetting its hand tightened and it jiggling some. Not that they'll ever fall off or anything, but still. And that's not a knock on this bar. Benching with your trap bar is a luxury, not a necessity. I'm just saying I'll personally probably rarely ever do it, but I do give Rep credit because this is a bit more of what I was hoping for from Rogue in their MG4 having interchangeable components. Next up is squats, and I'd like to personally thank Rep for figuring out yet another way to force me to do my least favorite exercise in a video that has nothing to do with squatting. If you haven't done cambered bar squats before, they can take some getting used to, and they're not something I'd recommend to a beginner because of the instability of the bar as it tries to oscillate. But once you adjust, it works fine for them, and this just might be one of those rare items where it actually does multiple things well. Though this 6-inch knurling here is pretty passive and really nothing to get excited about, which seems to be the same exact thing that happens to all knurls when you powder coat them. Actually, while we're talking about squats, we should talk about its rackability. Not really sure that's a word, but it is rackable in both 47-inch racks like reps or 49-inch racks like rogues. Though I actually think if it's a little better in rogues since they're wider but still leaves you enough space on the inside and the outside, whereas it can be a little tight on the inside of a 47-inch rack, which I'd say may lead to some dings in the powder coat like mine has, but that's really just for me trying stupid stuff with it. But remember, I did those things for you. Now, I really did test every exercise we were sent, from overhead press, which was a lot of fun when using the camber, but a bit too wide with the handles. I tried seal rows, Bulgarian split squats. I spent hours trying things and jotting down notes, and overall came away impressed. Sure, some things like Zercher squats didn't work that well because of the range of motion with the jack getting in the way, and I couldn't quite figure out how to make hip thrusts work, but I'm sure I looked strange trying. Hell, I even tried curling with it. Okay, of course I did. But I'd really prefer a rotating bar for curls, as you have to allow the bar to rotate in your hands. Anyway, nobody's gonna watch me talk for 3 hours, so I can't cover them all, but this bar did outperform my expectations on many of those exercises. Reps bar is imported and comes in at $400 shipped, which is about the middle of the pack, as there are cheaper options out there like Titan's behind me here at $330. But honestly, after using an open trap bar, I think most people would agree they enjoy easy access through the rear, so this is really starting to feel like a dated design to me. Giant's bar is about $80 less when you use my code to get 10% off, and it's a solid option if you're not looking for as much versatility since the handles aren't removable. And if you're interested in seeing more about that bar, make sure to subscribe because we will be reviewing it soon, but there seriously are a ton of other options as well. But do you really gain twice the bar or even that much more by doubling the price like with Kabuki, Eleiko, or Prime? I'm not so sure, but I am sure aesthetically and functionally this bar doesn't look or feel middle of the pack. It's a polished design they clearly invested a lot into. The built-in jack makes loading and unloading plates easier, assembly was very quick, packaging was great, and overall I think this is a bar a lot of people will be very happy with. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to help us on the algorithm. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.